Actually, you know what it is that we're parents. So I feel like when you're a single parent, you just have a fire that burns inside of you so deep that there's no plan B. You only have plan A. And that's it. That's it. It's almost like you have tunnel vision. And then when you start seeing the proof that the universe or God, whoever you believe, the divine, is like also sending you signs, synchronicities, like what you said, the green light is, all the lights are green, green, green. Then you're like, I'm in the right path.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Sean Trey Show. I am very lucky to have an awesome guest with me tonight. Can you introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Sean. Well, I am so excited to be here. I know we've been trying to coordinate this for a while, so I'm excited. So my name is Ivy Forero. I am actually based out of Dubai, but I am from all over the world. I basically
That's
grew
awesome.
up in Colombia, then moved to the States, where I grew up in Houston, Texas, for about 24 years of my life. And then I'm been in Dubai for about 2 years now. I have been in the domain of customer success, I would say, for the past 10 years. But my career, of course, started in sales. And I've moved a little bit within a startup world. And now I work for a big German global company.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's like and I found you because you have a really awesome presence on LinkedIn, and you're always sharing just really positive, uplifting content. And I'm looking behind you. I love the sign too. What's the best that could happen? That is an awesome poster, by the way. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because you have this really optimistic perspective that comes through in what you post and what you share.
You're very sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, I should be posting about career and leadership. And then I went to a convention for customer success in Jordan most recently. And I was talking to some of my peers. And of course, sometimes I have imposter syndrome of like, am I showing up right on LinkedIn? And I'm like, I'm not writing enough about customer success. And actually, my peers were like, no, actually, we enjoy your content more than customer success, because everybody on LinkedIn is trying to talk about leadership, culture, and all of
Right.
these things. And I feel like, especially in the age of AI, we're also looking for something a bit more authentic. And what sits on my
Yeah.
heart always is, possibility, personal growth, and whatnot. So I think that's a big component of my content.
I love it. And I think that because it's like, when you're looking at possibility, there's a couple things that you're doing. First of all, you're taking ownership of your mind, because like so often we drift toward, either worst case scenarios or the dread and gloom, but you're taking back this ownership. And it's so important to take back that ownership, because, I know that LinkedIn is where everyone goes to like talk about leadership and things like that. But like at the end of the day, I love it when people can talk about personal power and just share their journeys. Like I want to hear about. I mean, think about it. If you could be a fly on the wall for the life journey of any of these really great people that were accomplished the things that you want to create. Like I can't always sit in the room with them, but I can check out their LinkedIn account and see what they're sharing and just go, wow, that's pretty cool. That's a little insight into this person's mind.
Yeah, I agree. And one concept I really like is the hero's journey. And I feel like everybody has their own hero's journey. And I think it's the hero's journey. It's like you'll go on this journey away from your home, and you'll go through these obstacles and challenges. And it's like, how do you actually overcome them and become the main character of your story, which is amazing. It makes us all realize that we all have our own hero's journey.
100%. And every hero's journey starts with a call. Like, there's this moment where you're sitting there in your known space, and like you're in this space where everything kind of makes sense and it's just the norm. And then all of a sudden there's that call. There's that call to adventure that pulls you out of where you're at. And like, it can be a little scary when you're looking at that space where you have to jump off from the known to the unknown. It's terrifying. I remember when I was standing in LA and I was looking for work, and it didn't pan out, the job that I was looking for. And so I was like, all right, I'm moving back to Southeast Asia. And like my heart's beating. I was like, how am I going to bring my dog with me? Because I wasn't leaving my dog behind. And so I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to pull this off. And I just said, but there's no looking back. But I wanted to ask you, what was the moment that you felt pulled toward this new adventure, this new journey for yourself?
I was actually going to touch on this because Sean, before the call, we were talking about like the fact that we're so far away from home and how cool it is to jump on a call with people from all over the world and everything. But making that jump felt uncomfortable at the beginning, but I'm huge. I'm into astrology. And in my astrology, I'm actually a Scorpio. And Scorpios are all about throwing themselves out of like the edge, just like pushing yourself. And so I feel like for me, just like you, it was a calling in your heart. You just have this deep feeling within your heart. It's not logic, because the mind is constantly trying to put logic and does this make sense and whatnot. But I think it's a calling of the heart. That you have to really deeply trust. And for me, I came to Dubai to make money, to be honest, because at the time during COVID, I was actually in Tulum, Mexico. And I had quit my corporate job and everything, and I met somebody who lived in Dubai. So yeah, I came here to make money, honestly, but there was a deep calling for sure. What about for you in Vietnam? Like, did you felt like it was a hard calling?
I felt like all of the times in my life, I'm big into intuition, and I actually studied like intuition and energy and things like that. And I firmly believe that there is like a string that pulls us when we need to be pulled. But so often when we're kids, we listen to that. We feel that pull and we go, yeah, something, I need to go over there right now. And you don't know why, but you go, and then something works out. I remember some of the best experiences in my life were when I just felt like, you know what, I need to go check out that thing. And then you walk through that door, and there's all these people that you needed to meet were standing right there on the other side of that door. But you couldn't see it early on because you were like, I shouldn't be doing that. And the shouldn'ts get in the way. And so for me, it was just this number of events that I just was willing to say yes, because I've always been the no person, like play it safe, and if you go to like, I love the Lord of the Rings, and Bilbo is sitting there and he could have said no instead of going on that journey. But like any of those great stories where someone goes on the hero's journey, they start off by saying yes. And one of the biggest things that's been a big part of my most recent transformation was that I took a chance and said yes to some things that came along, and it made all the difference.
Oof. I can definitely relate with that. Those are the best moments.
Right? And you have that sign about optimism. And it's kind of been, with what you post, it's kind of a thread through your work. Like, was optimism something that you were taught or something you had to choose in your life?
This is good. Great question. So, look, I think referencing back to talking about when we were children, how it was easy to follow your curiosity and to follow that thread and your intuition. I feel like when we're born, we have this purity about ourselves, and when we go through this life journey, we get shaped by experiences. And me, like many people, I didn't have a really good upbringing, and then obviously I went to high school and whatnot, but I think within my own personal character, I was always somebody who wanted to make people laugh. So I would crack jokes, or just like had a very optimistic way into looking at life. Even the challenges that have come my way, I've definitely have always found some sort of meaning into them. Yeah,
that's huge. I think that when you can look at those challenges and give them context, for me, I think that some of the biggest challenges that came in my life were things that shaped me like hugely. And I just had something, um, a good friend and a business relationship that I have, um, someone who helped me financially for a long time. It was one of my financial planner. He is changing directions. He's changing his practice, and he's going to be kind of closing it down before he figures out what he wants to do and opens it back up later. And it was really tough to hear this, like this door closing. But at the same time, I was able to look at that and go, but what else is supposed to come in that me not being open to something is not ready for? You know, it's like, because so often we'll get stuck in a place. Imagine, remember when we were kids and you were growing up and you had those shoes, you know, the shoes you loved, but you were a kid. And what happens with shoes when you're a kid? You outgrow them really fast. And, you know, but you don't want to give up those shoes because you love the shoes so much. But the reality is you're outgrowing them so fast. And so the thing you have to do is to be ready to go, all right, mom, these shoes are done. Let's get a new pair of shoes. And it's not always easy, but it's the right thing to do, you know? And when you do that, suddenly you get the cool new shoes. But it took you, you know, being open to moving on from that past thing that you were really attached to.
I love that analogy. Yeah, it's basically, I have this saying that I like to say that, you know, you and I are both parents, and I have a 4-year-old son. And my motto of life that I tell him all the time, I tell him, follow your highest curiosity with maximum enthusiasm, with no expectation. I think if somebody were to ask me, like, how do I find my purpose? It's just to follow
Mm.
your highest curiosity with maximum enthusiasm, with no expectation. And I think what we're talking
Mm.
about now is like having no expectation, having no attachment. And
Yeah.
as silly human beings, we have been programmed to be attached, to grip, to force, to perform. And
Right.
it's deep conditions with ourselves that I can see that, of course, you have done a lot of work into rewiring those patterns. But yeah, it's tough to get to the place where you have the awareness.
I think that for me, it took some very challenging times. I had to, many years ago, I got really sick. I had a viral heart infection, and it was very challenging, and it was a very slow recovery. But when I was at the absolute bottom, I realized that there was no need to be afraid of everything, that all of the expectations and things that I had built up were just meaningless. All that was important was the stuff that was simple and in front of me. You know, what helped me get better was my dog. You know, at that time I had my puppy, and just getting up and I said, I gotta recover so I can take her for a walk. And, you know, and as you find those little things that give you meaning, what was it like? Everyone thinks that it's more and more and more, but we have to figure out what is your enough, what is your thing that is truly bringing you joy, you know, because it's like, you can seek more, but if you, I don't want more. I want more of the things that truly value to me, are valuable to me. And I think that's the thing that I had to do, and the work that I had to do, that was to find those things that were of true value. Because if you can figure that out, and you know, it might just be the moment where you see a kid smile. Like I used to teach children English, and one of the things that I loved was whenever one of my students would smile, and this big smile from ear to ear when you make a person laugh. That's a beautiful gift that you can give someone, you know?
I love that. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it is the smallest things in life. I love
Yeah.
dogs. Okay, so I think kissing dogs, I feel the oxytocin running through me. Kissing my
Right.
child, I feel the oxytocin running through me. So yeah, I'm in the same page with you that, you know, instead of chasing this success, quote unquote success, climbing the ladder and all of
Right.
these things, it's really the other things that truly matter at the end of the day.
Right. Well, you know, and you've taken really bold steps without a safety net. You know, what did crossing that line feel like when there was no clear way back, when you made these big jumps to a new chapter in your life?
Yeah, that is such a great question. You know what? I think the toughest chapter that I have gone through was when I moved to Dubai, because I came here. I didn't know anybody. I had never been to the Middle East before. And I came with no job. And I literally, that was the trust fall, right? I came
Yeah.
with a 2-year old. I had 3 luggages. My partner of the time, he was waiting for me here. Then we separated. And so
Oh
even now
no.
that I'm building a life here in Dubai, I'm a single mom. I'm a working mama full time. And it's like having many tabs open in your head when you're a parent, right? You gotta do
Right.
this, you gotta do that.
Right.
And is that inner trust. I think it's inner trust, and it also comes back to conviction and just
Yeah.
believing that this is the right path. And obviously, if you're a lot in your heart, that's
Yeah.
when intuition really kicks in. When you're in your head, I feel like that's when you get really afraid and you're thinking about the how is this going to work out. So I feel like that's an super inner trust and personal power that really played along.
I love that. And most people wait for certainty. They wait for that certainty. They want to have that
Yeah.
certain moment to have that clarity. But like one of the things I realized in life, it's never there. And what I found that was a greater thing that I could lean upon was this feeling of alignment. And I don't know, you can't always explain it, but when it just everything clicks. I've had people come on the podcast and they talk about it, there being their flow state, where you just, like the only thing I could compare it to is like, you're like, I need to go to this place. And then you start driving down the road and every green light just opens up for you. And you're just like, wow, I'm where I need to be. And to me, that is something that I try to find out how to replicate. I love Harry Potter. There was a scene where Harry takes the Felix Felicis, the liquid lock, and he thinks that it's going to make him more lucky, but it actually just allows his curiosity to bubble up and allows him to follow those feelings. And he goes, I feel like I should go here. And when he follows those feelings, the doors start opening for him. And I think that's one of the secrets for me. But like, what helped you act anyway when you didn't have clarity, when you didn't know if it was the right choice? What was the thing that helped you have that inner resolve, inner faith in yourself?
Actually, you know what it is that we're parents. So I
Right.
feel like when
There's no
you're a
failing.
single parent, you just have a fire that burns inside of you so deep that there's no plan B. You only have plan A.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It's almost like you have tunnel vision. And then when you start seeing the proof that the universe or God, whoever you believe, the divine, is like also sending you signs, synchronicities, like what you said, the green
Yeah.
light is, all the lights are green, green, green. Then you're like, I'm in the right path.
Yep. Yep. I'm 100% with you. And like when someone tells me, and I kind of balance out the resolve, because as a parent, the other day someone was like, Sean, they looked and saw my schedule and they're like, dude, why do you have 20 podcast episodes this week? And I was like, well, because as a father, like I'm trying to get ahead for my little one. There's no plan B. There's only plan A, and I'm making this happen. But at the same time, I also believe in the magic of every single conversation, like that we weren't able to connect, but maybe we needed this moment in time for both of us to have had some things processed to be ready for this conversation. And to me, those are the synchronicities that I value and that I think are so important. And to me, like, I feel like when I start feeling worried, I remember all the times that I took a step in hope, in surrender, and that it worked out right, and that the doors opened. And so that's one of the things that keeps me going.
Oof, I love that. Surrendering. Yeah. So surrendering and trust both play a key part. But Sean, going back to, you mentioned something about, we have this addiction to certainty. We want to know, right?
Right.
It's like when you're skiing, you can only see 5 feet, right? But we want to see full 10
Right.
feet, right? And really, when we talk about AI and what AI is doing to changing jobs and everything, I
Right.
feel like we have this attachment to these identities that we created, to these roles that now show up in our resume of who we are. So now it enters the room, and AI is suddenly changing, rewriting job descriptions and blah blah, and we have to find a new way to reinvent ourselves. Okay, and it's almost like we have this attachment. We have this attachment to certainty. We don't like to be uncomfortable. So it kind of, I wanted to mention that because it is something that is so important to be not attached to identities and to continue reinventing yourself, which is exactly what you and I did by moving so far away from our homes. I'm sure you know people back in America in high school that they still live in the same city,
Yep. Right.
and stuff like that. And I like to believe that people who moved overseas, they have big balls for sure, because there's
Yeah.
nothing like being out of your comfort zone in your country.
100%. 100%. I think that's so true because one of the things that you find when you take that big jump is that the middle of your journey is almost always messy. And, when you get into it and you take that jump, like suddenly you're in these deep waters and you go, what was I thinking? But one of the things that I find in those moments is that it's the little habits that I've created along the way that help me recenter. I had a teacher that was so great. And he said, you find your space, you lose your space. You find your space, you lose your space. And he says, it's not about always knowing exactly where you're at. He's like, we all get disoriented at times. We all lose our center. But he says the goal is not to always keep your center. It's the ability to kind of, when you lose that space, to just kind of come back and go, okay, here I am, and let's chart a new course. And I think because as things get messy, it's simply about finding that internal optimism and knowing that instead of slipping into fear or control, because we all want control. We want to grab that teddy bear and have someone just pick us up and go, it's going to be okay. But the other day I was, sitting there with my company and I had a ton of stress and I had all these projects and all these deadlines. And I just was like, I felt like at maximum. And then all of a sudden, I said this thing to myself. I was thinking about this, like I'm the top right now in my own life. Like if I need a hug, I'm the person who has to give it to myself because and so I said, I can't sit there and go like this, but I took this deep breath and I said, it's okay. It's okay. And I settled and I said, what can I do right now? And I just started doing things one at a time. And then suddenly I found my center again because it was that anxiety started to build up. But I just said, I'm not going there right now. It's just no time for that.
Wow. But you know what, Sean? That's power. That's power.
Yeah.
And awareness, because they say awareness is the space between a stimuli and reaction. And you have that quick
Oh,
second where you can actually stop and say, no, I'm actually going to do this instead of letting my mind go somewhere else. And for me, that's self leadership.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, look, I've met so many people in corporate jobs and yada yada, but to have awareness, I mean, that's a completely degree of its own. That takes a lot of years for you to be able to practice that. Are you into meditation, or what do you think has allowed you
Yes.
to build this?
I studied martial arts, first of all. I did lots of martial arts. And so I'm a black belt in Japanese style jujitsu, which is like judo.
Nice.
I studied Muay Thai for many years and lots of meditation. And, but I think the thing that helps me is just like, it's been being a dad and being a children's teacher, being a kids
Yeah.
teacher is literally the definition of chaos. When you are in this room surrounded by 25, 10 and 11-year-olds that are just out of their mind, over caffeinated, and the parents have dropped a ton of sugar on them before they drop them off at school. And you're just like, wow. It it allowed me a couple things. One, it allowed me to remember never to take everything so seriously. Like, no matter where you're at, no matter what's going on, there's someone who's going to have it a lot harder than you. There's going to be someone who's having harder, like bigger challenges than you. And even if you are in maximum challenges, like, isn't it better to laugh than to feel overwhelmed? Like, I mean, so you get into a car accident, that sucks. But if you can sit there afterwards and go, well, didn't expect that to happen. All right, and laugh about your situation, and not making light of it, but just finding the ability to find that joy in that present moment, I think is so powerful.
Why, I love that. I love that. And one thing that I heard or I learned in the past few months is this whole thing of like, you either react to your reality or you're co-creating with it. And this for me is powerful because it gives you a sense of a little bit of a control, right? And then when we talk about, having a victim mindset versus like growth mindset, right? Knowing that you have some sort of control will take you out of the victimhood, right? So I feel like this goes back to what you were saying, that you do have a choice to react in a positive way or in a way that is going to, at the end of the day, negatively affect you. And then going back to this whole thing of being parents, I mean, the amount of patience that you need to have to be a parent and also to be able to self-regulate yourself before you react, right? Because children, they want things when they want it. They're going to say things, sometimes we had a hard day and they want to play with us and stuff like that, or they do things that they're not supposed to. And we have to quickly self-regulate before we can actually react. And I think this is a skill that is extremely important, whether you have children or not, is the ability to be able to slow down, just like what you did the other day where you felt very overwhelmed. You stop, but you self-soothe yourself and you self-regulated. You took that space. And this is extremely important. I know a lot of adults that do not know how to self-regulate themselves.
Right. It's so true. And I think one of the things too is like, I love what you're saying about either reacting to your environment or you have this intentionality, because, as a parent, you can look at the obstacle in the room, the thing, and go, all right, that's going to result in a kid falling down and crying in about 10 minutes. Or I can be proactive and move that in a way so that someone will not fall down, and you start looking at the room like that, I was ironing some clothes when my daughter was small, and I just set the iron down. I was like, that's not going to be successful there. We got to wrap this cable up. It's like, I think that when you start being intentional with your own life, because it's simple with stuff like that, but what about when things get more complicated? What about when it's your own mind? What about when it's your own, so you're not happy at work? Well, you can react to that, or you can dust off your resume, start going and networking and meeting people and find a way to find something that makes you happy, And if you don't know what makes you happy, start talking to people and figure that out.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with that. There's so much power. There's so much power in the way that we react or perceive things. I think sometimes maybe we're too narrow focused and we don't see possibility 100%. In the challenges that come about.
I think seeing possibility in challenges is a superpower. Because if you can sit there, and this is something that you hear business people talk about, like how some of the biggest companies came about in challenging times, or that you look at something and go, what is something that could fix this problem? That's some of the greatest products that have ever been invented, where a person who sat there and looked at a problem people had and said, what type of solution can I have for this? Not that it all needs to be about that, but I think that if you can start looking at, okay, I'm having this challenge right now. That was why I built my financial podcast, my Growing Money with Sean Trace podcast. I built that because I was trying to get my financial life back on track. And I have learned so much from that podcast because it was just this amazing deep dive. I've had hundreds of financial planners on my podcast who talk to me about the secrets that they find with, how to be successful. And at that point in time, it starts rubbing off on you, and you sit there and go, but that was a proactive attempt to move into a new sphere instead of reacting to what was going on, and just say, I'm tired of being in this financial place. And that choice to create that podcast has been one of the most profound changes in my life. And I can remember when I sat down and I started my MBA, and I was like, I want to talk about money stuff. And then I sat there and I was like, I don't know anything about money stuff, but I can find people who do. And I'm good with video. So let's put it on video. I want to have these conversations.
Wow. And how long ago was that when you started that podcast?
I started that podcast about 3 years ago now.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just been something I love. I love doing it. And the conversations are fun,
Yes. When I got into podcasting, I didn't know it was going to be this fun to get to know people.
Right? It's super cool.
It's super cool. It's super cool. And also, look, creating a podcast, you have to have consistency. So I believe they say that the average person that doesn't succeed only records, doesn't go past 20 episodes or something like that. So kudos to you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I think that for me, it was just about, I'm relentless. And when I get into something, I don't stop. And it's almost a fault of mine. But I think that it's because I enjoy it. I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy the conversations and I enjoy the time spent. Now, certainly, there are some really tough conversations, and some of them people are not conversationalists, but the majority of the people are genuinely amazing people, and they just want to help people and share the information they have. And to me, that's beautiful.
Yeah. No, honestly,
what's your favorite part about having a podcast?
My favorite part, look, I my favorite part, of course, I love get into their careers and yada yada, but I feel like listening to their personal journey, whether it's the hero's journey or any sort of a what else? Anything that is a personal growth, personal development, career advice that they have for other people. I think it's extremely gratifying to be able to provide to be able to pick into people's brains and provide this sort of knowledge to people. I feel like it's the best way to create community, and I mean, there's nothing better than free knowledge. But I love having conversations. And just for everybody listening, Sean did not prepare me for this. He did not send me a prep sheet. This is totally unscripted. So, obviously you're really good at it. So I feel like interviewing has been really, really fun. But now that I'm on the other side talking to you as a guest, it feels also very, very fun.
I love that. Well, thank you for that. I sometimes come up with questions, but there are times where I sit there and I just really want to allow space for the conversation to go where they go. I had a list of questions prepped for you. And then the second you said the hero's journey, I was like, oh, it's going to be that type of day. And I said, let's go, And I mean, because for me, literally hands down, my favorite thing, I studied creative writing. I'm still actually doing my master's in creative writing because I love the hero's journey. I love being able to deep dive into that. But, because I think that for so many of us, whether it's the simple act of going to the grocery store, you cross that line into adventure. And I mean, and it's as simple as stepping into something that you see there's no way back. And those little decisions, we don't realize that those little decisions that can change our entire life are happening every single day. Every single day, you are taking a step through a doorway that will change your reality. And you might not know what they are, but if you step through those doors consistently, you'll be so happy that you did.
Oof. Preach. Yes, I mean, look, the thing is what I find most exciting is the fact that at any given point, your life can change. Literally,
Yeah.
like any day, I have my morning routine. I'm all about routines. I'm very, very disciplined. And in my morning routine, I always do Kundalini yoga. Then I meditate, and then I pray. I talk to God and all of my guardian angels and everything. Um, and how do I say this? So doing this sort of practice has allowed me to understand that there is a field of unlimited possibilities waiting to happen
Yes.
at any given point. And I've become so sassy and so playful that I tell the universe, show me how good does it get. And every day I
Yeah.
just welcome the day with as much as curiosity and openness as possible, and playfulness, because I think we get too stuck of like, oh man, well, when am I going to get a raise? Or, oh, okay, it's always looking for an outcome. When am I going to buy a car? When am I going to find a partner? And I think because we're so attached to that, we forget that there's so much possibility, and literally there is a field of a lot of things waiting to happen as well. So I think it's wonderful to be able to welcome each day in such a way.
I love that. Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so honestly, people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. So yeah, I think LinkedIn would be the best. Of course, I don't know if, do you usually attach like the link
Of
of,
course,
yeah,
I can put your link and everything in there that you want to share for
yes,
sure.
yes.
But
Yes, I'm always welcome to jump on calls like these and conversate with people.